The wind screamed across the barren plains like 1,000 ghosts, battering the wooden walls of the old ranch house. Inside, the dim lantern light flickered against the walls, throwing long, nervous shadows across the floorboards. Ethan Cole, a rugged rancher in his late 30s, stood near the window, staring into the endless blackness outside. The rain came down in hard, slanted sheets, drumming against the tin roof. He'd been alone for 3 years since his wife passed away, 3 long years of silence, cattle and whiskey. But tonight something felt different. The horses had been restless since dusk, and even his old shepherd, Duke, growled low at the darkness beyond the porch. Then came the knock, slow, hesitant, but sharp enough to cut through the storm's roar. Ethan froze, every instinct on edge. No one came out here, not in this weather, not at this hour. He grabbed his rifle, heart pounding, and opened the door. She was there, drenched from head to toe, trembling violently, her long hair plastered to her pale face, her eyes, wild and frightened, locked onto his. "Please," she gasped, her voice shaking. "You have to let me in." Without thinking, he stepped aside. She stumbled into the room, clutching a soaked blanket to her chest. Ethan slammed the door against the storm and turned to her. "You lost?" he asked cautiously, but she didn't answer. She just stood there, dripping and staring at the floor. When he reached to help her with the blanket, she flinched violently. "Don't," she whispered, her voice almost breaking. Something in her tone stopped him cold. He fetched her some dry clothes from the spare room, lit another lantern, and watched her hands shake as she took them. Her fingers were bruised. Her wrists had faint marks, like she'd been tied. Ethan's jaw tightened. "You in trouble, miss?" he asked. She didn't look at him, just whispered, "I just need a place to stay tonight." Her name, she said after a long pause, was Lily. She wouldn't say where she came from, wouldn't say what she was running from, but when the thunder rolled and her eyes darted to the window like she expected someone to be there, Ethan knew someone was after her. He didn't ask again. Instead, he set another log on the fire, made coffee, and told her she was safe now. The warmth returned to her face, slowly, and as she sipped from the cup, she managed a faint, tired smile. For a moment, he felt something he hadn't felt in years, but that peace shattered around midnight when the dogs started barking again. Ethan grabbed his rifle and stepped to the window. Out by the edge of the ranch, a dark figure stood in the rain, motionless, staring toward the house. Ethan's pulse spiked. He turned back to warn Lily, but she was already standing, pale as a ghost, clutching the blanket again. "He found me," she whispered. "Oh God, he found me." The next few seconds felt like a dream. The pounding on the door, the voice shouting her name, the sound of her begging, "Please, don't open it." Ethan's hand tightened on the rifle. "Who is it?" he shouted, but no answer came. Just another bang, harder this time, the wood cracking under the weight. "Stay behind me," he ordered, stepping toward the door. The storm howled louder, then came the sound that chilled him to the bone. Lily's soft whisper, "I took it off, please." Ethan turned, confused. "What?" he asked. She slowly lifted the blanket, and what he saw made him stumble back in disbelief. Around her neck was a thin red mark, like a collar had been there, a collar that was now gone. "He said he'd kill me if I ever took it off," she cried, trembling. "Now he's coming for me." The rancher froze, the words echoing in his mind. He didn't know who she was, or what kind of nightmare she'd escaped from, but he knew one thing: she wasn't facing it alone anymore. Outside, the door rattled again, harder. Ethan cocked the rifle. "He'll have to go through me first." And as lightning split the sky, he made his desperate move, stepping out into the storm, ready to protect a woman whose secret could cost them both their lives. The storm had turned savage. Lightning slashed the night sky, illuminating the figure outside for a heartbeat. Tall, broad, wearing a long coat, soaked through with rain. Ethan raised his rifle. "Turn around and leave," he shouted, but the man didn't move. Then, in a slow, deliberate motion, the stranger lifted his head. A flash of lightning revealed a face half covered in scars, eyes like cold metal. "You've got something that belongs to me," he growled. Ethan's grip tightened. "Ain't nothing here that belongs to you." The man smiled, a thin, deadly smile. "You sure about that, rancher?" Behind Ethan, Lily screamed. The stranger took one slow step forward. Ethan fired. The shot cracked through the storm. The man staggered but didn't fall. Instead, he laughed, the sound almost inhuman. Ethan fired again. This time, the man dropped to his knees, clutching his shoulder. But even bleeding, he kept laughing. "You think you can protect her?" he snarled. "You don't even know what she is." Ethan didn't answer. He grabbed Lily's hand and pulled her toward the barn. "We're getting out of here." But she hesitated, crying, "No, Ethan, you don't understand. He'll never stop. Not until I'm dead. Then we'll stop him first," he said. Inside the barn, Ethan loaded his shotgun while Lily tried to explain through tears. "It wasn't just a collar," she said. "It was a binding. He owned me, my mind, my will. But when I took it off, something changed. I don't know what, but he said the world would burn if I did." Ethan stared at her, not sure whether to believe her. "You're telling me that man out there, he's some kind of monster," she whispered. "Yes." The wind slammed against the barn door again, this time harder. The horses panicked, neighing wildly. Ethan moved to the door, gun ready, but before he could fire, it burst open. The stranger lunged in, eyes glowing faintly under the lightning flash. "You think you can hide her from me, rancher?" he hissed. Ethan fired point blank. The blast threw the man back, but even as he fell, he reached out and grabbed Lily's ankle. She screamed. The ground seemed to shake, the air vibrating with an unnatural hum. "It's too late," the stranger croaked. "You broke the seal." His hand went limp. Then silence. Ethan dropped the gun, chest heaved. But Lily didn't move. She was staring at the sky, at the strange red glow spreading through the clouds. "Ethan," she whispered. "It's starting." And then the light hit the ground. The earth trembled. The cattle cried out. The air filled with a sound like 1,000 wings. Ethan shielded his eyes as the storm erupted in fire. When it cleared, the stranger's body was gone, vanished into ash. Lily was still there, but her eyes, they weren't the same. They shimmered faintly, gold and bright. "He was right," she murmured. "The world will burn." Ethan reached for her, voice shaking. "Lily, what are you?" She looked at him sadly. "Something you shouldn't have saved." And then she smiled, a heartbreakingly human smile, and kissed his cheek. "Thank you," she whispered. The next moment, a gust of wind swept through the barn, and she was gone, like dust carried into the storm. Ethan fell to his knees, staring at the spot where she had stood. The ranch was silent again, but the horizon burned faintly. He didn't know if he'd saved her or unleashed something far worse. All he knew was that the night had changed everything. And as the dawn crept over the plains, Ethan whispered into the empty air, "I'd still do it again."